Hello worldies and welcome back to my naughty little channel. Today I want to talk about the soft life and how a lot of that starts off with setting boundaries over your mental space. So I got the idea for this video because I received a comment that I guess I received it a while ago, but I hadn't seen it because I have my channel set up that, comments that are kind of sus or like hateful, they will not just immediately be shown. So I actually have, I think, two comments that are on my mind right now. One where somebody actually, I guess, was trying to start something with one of my subscribers. And so the algorithm picked that up and then hit it. And then another one that was like to me. And I just think it's very interesting how part of building a soft life for myself looked like not going to places where I feel that I'm not celebrated. And so I find it to be very interesting when, that is something that most women who are on their soft life journey have implemented in their life. You're on your level up journey, so you've hopefully already gotten it through your head that, certain environments are just not going to fit. I was actually watching an interview yesterday and it was this woman, Stormy, I don't know her last name, but I was watching an interview that she did and she was talking about how she has previously been in some environments and she felt that it was rude to say, and maybe it might be, but she felt as though mediocrity was celebrated in different seasons of her life, the environment she was in, and that she felt that her desire to achieve more and to have more, to be more, was shamed. And I think that that is a very common experience for the type of woman who wants to be exceptional, because you are getting punished by people around you for something that actually doesn't harm them. It's not something that harms them intentionally or maliciously, but they seek to be harmed by what you're doing. So when it comes to people trying to come into my comment section and argue with me or argue with my subscribers, these are people who see the soft life and they are seeking to feel harmed by that. So what do I mean by that? One of the main ways that I was able to live a softer life was if there was an environment where I felt as though I was on trial, whether that be my identity, my hobbies, my personalities, the way that I speak, the way that I carry myself, my background, my hair, my facial features, my skin tone, anything like that, I'm out of there. I don't want any parts, because the way I see it is that is not a soft life for me. And on the flip side of that, if somebody really does feel so triggered by me existing, by the way that I carry myself, by the type of life that I live, I am not trying to intentionally harm them. I will not play small anymore, I should say. I will say that a lot of us fall into the trap of playing small because we feel as though we will be victimized if we go after a certain type of life. And that is the case, because how can you be a faceless YouTube channel and have people wanting to argue with you in your comments, and you're a small channel, nobody even knows that your channel exists? I mean, I have some subscribers, but I don't have that many subscribers. Like, it's not like I have like tens of thousands of subscribers. I am trying to be more consistent, and I feel that I'm attracting the right audience for my channel. So if you like this type of content, you like this message so far, be sure to hit the subscribe button and, give me a like and comment down below what you want to hear me talk about next. But, a lot of people, it's interesting when you are maintaining a calm frequency for yourself, or like a calm energy. If you know how to regulate yourself, if you are emotionally intelligent and you can say, hey, the way I want to live my life is not for everybody. The things that I believe in are not for everybody. I am not going to come and force my beliefs onto you. And so you carve out an entire sector. You create your own channel to say what you have to say. And it's very unfortunate, especially, I will say, like, I try to reiterate that this channel is for women. So if you're a man and you're here and you're like, I don't know, enjoying the vibes, go off, sir. That's fine. We welcome you, I guess. But it is really weird when I get men coming to my channel to try to argue. And I think that it's very interesting, especially when you think about the dynamics of performative masculinity and performative femininity. And it is so interesting how, whoever person was in my comments was like self-identifying with the red pill. But it's very interesting that people who seem to be so concerned with masculinity have this inability to do the good things that masculinity is associated with. Like, to only be able to do the harmful things, the bad things, the destructive things, I think is just a waste of your power. And, I think it's sad that we live in a day and age where, everybody's always talking about, like, men used to go to war. And it's like now they come into women's comment sections to try to argue with them. And I think it just goes to show that they have an inability to bring more softness to a woman's life, because I think that when I talk about seeking out to be harmed, there's content out there that I know, doesn't celebrate me, put somebody like me on trial. And so I generally just don't go and seek that content out anymore. And I noticed that when I stopped doing that, I became calmer. I had less anxiety. I had more peace. And, when it comes to just the dynamics that exist online, there definitely is a type of person who's got their heart pounding, their adrenaline going, and is seeking out to be harmed by certain content. I know that, at least for me, and let me know if you've ever experienced this down below yourself, but I've been in situations where somebody else in my life, like, their form of relational aggression towards me was to, even when I was not seeking out certain content, to put that content in front of me. And then I then made the choice in the past to then seek out to be harmed, to, keep, if it's a part of the internet where you feel like the content doesn't resonate with you, it's never going to magically resonate with you. It's always going to dysregulate you. It's always going to bother you. It's always going to, make you feel some type of way, especially if it's content created with the intent to, like, exploit your insecurities or to weaponize your insecurities against you. And it's very interesting for me to be talking about this now, because I feel like I did just recently in another video of mine reference this content where you will see an influencer, sorry, somebody going by my house, but you will see an influencer online that's saying, like, okay guys, I'm going to show you my insecurity in 3, 2, 1, and they don't do anything, and they just, like, stay on the screen, and the whole thing is supposed to be like, oh, other people, they don't know your insecurities. But, like, what happens when people, like, they do know your insecurities? Or something that I think happens as well is, like, you can either have people who know your insecurities, that you've confided in them, and they are, like, seeking to exploit that is an insecurity of yours, but that requires proximity. So if you are the type of person who denies people access, you deny people proximity, and you deny, like, the information that they may be seeking to exploit or to use against you, then what will happen is they will try to create insecurities for you that don't exist. And I noticed that specifically with people who venture and trek over to a different side of the internet and decide to try to, like, plant a flag or say something. It's very much giving like they don't understand the language, they don't understand the context. And I will say, like, one thing about understanding is that not everybody is seeking to understand. Sometimes people don't care to understand. That's why I'm a big believer in you don't need to over explain yourself, and you don't really need to give people the benefit of the doubt that much, because while I think that some people have comprehension issues, I also think that sometimes the issue is not comprehension. Sometimes the issue of like lacking comprehension skills works for them. So the issue is like a lack of desire to work on the comprehension skills, or the issue may be a commitment to actually misunderstanding or acting in like the ways as if you misunderstand somebody, which is why sometimes if I receive a certain type of comment, I'll just make sure it never sees the light of day, and then I might make some sort of content like this, but I don't reply to that because I'm not seeking out to be harmed. And if somebody is waking up and they like eat their breakfast and they wipe their ass and the next thing they want to do is argue with someone, I can't relate to that. That's not a part of my life. That's not a part of my soft life. I would strongly urge you to not let that be a part of your life either. And I will say, it's even to the point where there is certain types of like content created by women that I also don't choose to go and look at. Like I'm thinking specifically of this niche of, I want to say it's like African creators who do these long compilations of just like clips and stuff. Like I will say that a lot of those channels, I don't even know if I know the words to describe the feeling that they leave me with when I used to watch that type of content. But I just find a lot of the content sometimes to be unrelatable, but also to be unproductive and to be unhelpful, and to, I don't know, just like, it just doesn't leave me feeling softer. And I feel as though there are ways that you may have to be hard on the front end in order to get softness on the back end. Like in the sense of, sometimes people will feel like maintaining your boundaries is a hard thing, but it leads to a softer life. Sometimes putting systems or structure in place can allow you to reap the benefits of those structures working for you, and you having compound interest, or you benefiting from the fruits of your labor when it comes to being like on a regiment or a routine or some sort of thing that you're doing consistently as ritual. But I'm curious what you all think about this. Like, how do you feel about going over to other parts of the internet that you don't resonate with and spending time over there? Like, I think that for me, sometimes every once in a while, I do have stuff that pops up in my algorithm because I am looking for content that is already out there. I'm looking, maybe I'm looking to talk about something, and it may be something that's controversial or a debate that's going on. And so I want to hear the other side of the aisle, but I don't really get much joy out of going in. Like, to me, what's much more productive is making my own content. I feel like that's a better use of my time. I feel like it allows me to feel like I'm having a softer life, because what I've realized is that oftentimes when we're in a debate with somebody, wanting them to see your side of things is rooted more so in ego than it is in being productive. Because what the most productive thing would be to do is to do like what I've done, like make my own channel where people who like the content can come over here and interact over here and build community over here. It's been things like creating my workbook, which is always down in my channel description and everything, to actually help women who resonate with this type of content take it a step further and invest into their level up journey. It's things like creating the Patreon or the members page so that people who really feel like they resonate can get some of the deeper, the more scandalous, even some of the more high value content. And that is a more productive use of my time. But I don't feel like often, like when you're in a debate with somebody, what credentials does this person have for debating with them to be valuable to where you need to, I guess, win? I will say that, if you're thinking about something like a debate club, where people are professionally debating, a lot of it is not in wrong or right. It is based in how well somebody's able to construct an argument. It's things like, you can have a good or a bad argument for what it is that makes an apple, like holding up an apple. You can have one person who says like, oh, that's an apple because, it's red. But that wouldn't really be a good argument because like, okay, what if I have a lipstick that's red? What if I have a blush that's red? What if I have a pair of shoes that's red? Is everything that's red just an apple now? That's kind of like the heart of people who are trying to debate in a productive way. But most of the time, what you will notice is that people aren't really trying to debate in that way. People are trying to maybe more so make a character attack against somebody. They are, like I've spoken about before, they're trying to weaponize either insecurities that they know about or insecurities that they're assuming that they're trying to plant. They're trying to plant an insecurity in you that you don't have. And I feel like part of living the soft life for me is definitely building community with like-minded people. I don't look to build community with people that I don't feel like are like-minded, people that I feel like would want to argue, people that I feel like would be putting me on trial. Like, even if it's little things like your workout routine, if it's little things like you being in a calorie deficit, if it's you journaling, you taking care of your mental health, you taking care of your physical health, you being high maintenance and taking care of yourself aesthetically. I don't want to argue about those things. Like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to defend it. Like, if you guys can see me, I'm literally like clapping my hands out a little bit. Like, I don't want to talk about that. That is not a soft life to me. Trying to be like, well, why do you have to do all that? Or like, why is that how you see things? Or I don't know. Because I do. And that's kind of just it. Like, I feel like when it comes to me deciding to live a softer life, part of it is allowing myself to be misunderstood in the situations that, it's not super harmful for me to be misunderstood there. You have to be aware of the environment that you're in and the situation. And, a soft life looks like going to the environments and staying in the environments where you don't feel like you're put on trial. Instead, you feel like you are celebrated. You don't feel overlooked. You don't feel like you're put on trial, but you feel like you're uplifted. You feel like you're praised and you're celebrated. And I feel that oftentimes when people are going really far onto another side of the internet that doesn't really resonate with them, part of the reason they're doing that is because they maybe don't feel very celebrated over there. Like, I will say, specifically, like on the internet, there are sectors like the red pill sector where it's very much, it's kind of like the epitome of hierarchy thinking, which is something that we usually talk against on this side of the internet. But over there, you have to think, if there are a lot of men basically subscribing to this idea that they have to hit XYZ markers in order to be at the top. Yes, they do talk about being at the top. They talk in percentages and in pyramids and all of these different things. The men who don't see themselves as being at the top, they have to find something to do with that energy, and that feeling of powerlessness that they have over there. And they, I would say classically have been able to get women into relationships and get women behind closed doors to where they could try to be the top dog there, to where they could try to punch down onto the woman that they have at home. But because there are so many women nowadays who are saying no to that type of lifestyle, saying that I don't want to just be somebody's emotional or human punching bag for the next 6 years of my life, and I'm okay with accepting the title of being a divorced woman or an unmarried woman, a single woman, a woman of this age or that age, if that means that I am not somebody's human and emotional punching bag. Because I think that, good things are exclusive, good things are rare sometimes. And I think that, part of having an abundance mindset looks like not settling for something that doesn't feel soft. Because I think that too many people in your life as a woman will probably be harmed by your lack of, internal and external softness, for you to sacrifice that. It's not worth it to sacrifice that feeling, whether it is to try to get the the dopamine hit, or like the ego stroke of winning an argument or debating with somebody. When I actually get a lot of comments like that. And I don't really know what it is. I don't know why this type of content is so controversial to some people, but my guess for why it would be so controversial is because there are many different types of people out there. There are men who are in good relationships with good women, and they're not trying to argue with other women on the internet. They're enjoying that life that they have for themselves. Then you have men who are in bad relationships, maybe with good women, and they don't want those women to have access to content like this, to have access or to have access to content like a lot of the other types of level up and soft life content that you see out there. Something that I felt for a long time is that we really have to unpack the way that we've been socialized around masculine and feminine energy, and on what that softness looks like. Because and if you're interested in me talking about how to unlearn the good girl script, over on my members page, I'm doing a series right over there. I think I'm on to part 3 I just put up a few days ago, where I'm breaking down how a lot of the good girl expectations that we have been socialized to have are things that are keeping you from having a soft life. They're keeping you from living a leveled up life. Sometimes you do have to take on traits that make you look like a worse woman or a bad woman in order to live a softer life. One example that I think I've seen so many women break down online, like amazingly, just over the years, just consistently, has been Lori Harvey. And so I'm going to bring her up again today. I know I've brought her up before. People that I've listened to and learned from have brought her up before. And, she's looked at as a bad woman. She's not looked at as a good woman. She's literally looked at as a bad woman. Another one that I could think of would be like, Tracy Ellis Ross, Sade. Any of these women who are, beautiful, glowing, and you can tell that they have a soft life that they're living. Why is it that the women who seem to have the softest lives are the most demonized in the media? And a lot of this is because we have been lied to, and we have been socialized to believe that softness is something that a man has to give to us, when most men don't have the ability to give themselves softness, and they don't have the ability to give you softness. They don't have that ability. there are so many situations in which adding a man to your life will actually take away the softness from it. And it depends on the capacity. If you add a man to your life, oftentimes in the terms that a good woman will, it is in the ways of you being in service to him, which inherently, it typically makes you feel less soft, because there's a big difference in, doing certain things because it's a hobby, doing certain things because it genuinely is a part of your personality to enjoy it, and to enjoy doing it for another grown adult. Like, I will say that's two different things. There's a big difference between anybody who likes to cook or bake or craft and any of these things. There's a difference between doing it for yourself. There's a difference between doing it as part of your career and selling it, doing it as a hobby, doing it with the girls, and then doing it to meet the expectations of some man. There's a big energy shift over from softness and ease and flow over to criticism and expectations, and just this hierarchy that a lot of men are trying to play into. And when they can't rank the way they want to, then their next energy is their next action is to try to turn to a woman and grade them. And with this, male loneliness epidemic that's going on, and all of people talking about, the younger generations are not having kids as many, and more people are being single, and more people are not getting married, and all of these things, that comes with women who are finding out that if they are alone, they are able to create a soft life. And it's a soft life that they're not willing to add other people to in a way that removes the softness. So that may look like a woman who's like, okay, I'm comfortable going on a date with this guy because that adds softness. But I mean, I don't know, he's not like my husband or anything. So why would I not also go on a date with this guy? And then this guy has been my boyfriend for a while. And I don't know, in this amount of time that I've been able to observe his qualities, I don't see that he would be fit to be my husband. And so I don't want to be in the relationship anymore. Lori Harvey was so torn apart in the media. And I think that she still kind of is, to this day, somebody who's brought up as these examples of women who are not good women. And, it's this idea, and a lot of the content online, very male-centered content, is centered around this idea that, a man is supposed to know that he wants to marry you within a certain amount of time. And then I don't know why the conversation is never, you should know in a certain amount of time. I think that I just think it's very common for it to just be like, oh, he wants to marry you now, and then now you're supposed to marry him. But it's like, duh, obviously he met you and you already were able to build a soft life for yourself. You have all of these privileges where people are putting you on a pedestal and they're giving you amazing treatment. You're a vibe. You feel great. You have your weight in check. You have your health in check, your mental health. You are able to curate a full, amazing life. Of course, he would want to link himself to that life forever, for as long as he possibly can. Of course, he wants a piece of that. But I think that sometimes we have to look and see, hitching my ride, or I don't know why I always struggle with this saying, hitching my wagon to this ride or whatever, basically linking myself to this person. Will that add or will that subtract softness from my life? And I'm a strong believer as a woman that you should have some, you should be in the driving seat of connections in your life, and you decide how long are you going to give somebody to prove that they are going to add to the softness instead of taking away from it. For me, I know recently I had a friend or somebody who wanted to be my friend or whatever, an acquaintance, and I think it took one hangout. I was like, you know what? That was enough for me. And that's what it is. You say no to low quality experiences if you want to have better ones. With all of the other people in my life that I think of them as being high quality connections, I just don't have space in my schedule for people that I feel like are not of the highest quality, and people that I feel like being around them would take away from the softness of my life. And you just have to stand on business about that sometimes. Like, you know, whatever that is. I know some women are like 2 years, some women are like 6 months. Like, it is how you feel, you know. I'm really not opposed for the 6 month. I kind of feel like in 6 months, you should have been able to show me that I won't have a dusty life with you. If in 6 months, the life with you is looking dusty, then I don't care if you now want to hitch your, you know, you want to link up for the rest of life, you want to pair, like, no thank you, I'm okay, I'm good on that. And you know, the same thing when it comes to just protecting my energy, to allow myself to have a soft life when it comes to even online. Oh my God, I'm such a dedicated user of the show me fewer posts like this, unfollow or unsubscribe, you know, whatever, like, don't recommend this. I am such a big user of stuff like that, where it's like, I don't want to see it. And I feel like every time I am, you know, researching something for a video, I end up having to kind of clean up my algorithm a bit. But it's worth it to do that and to use these features all the time, so that eventually maybe the algorithm will pick up like, okay, maybe she wants to like watch this sometimes, and maybe it will even pick up that like, okay, she's a creator, so she's just trying to research right now, but she doesn't want to see it. Like, eventually it's getting to that point where it's like, if I think of my homepage, it will be like all things that I feel like fit into my algorithm, and there may be like one thing that's hanging out there, and I'm like, hey, how did you get there? What are you doing there? But what do you think about this, worldies? Let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, worldies, eyes on the prize.